The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Don't fall in love with Senator Slingblade too quickly, as I cautioned when he broke from his anti-Semitic Democrat colleagues to say, yeah, we should support our chief ally in the Middle East, that would be the state of Israel, in the wake of the Hamas terrorist attack and some other things. Senator Slingblade, still not particularly connected to reality, not particularly thoughtful, and also, frankly, still running the same rap for the same new Bolsheviks. He's an embarrassment to the Senate. That hasn't changed. On Trump and trans, Fetterman with Dana Bash.
Again, it's like if your political capital comes from picking on trans kids or gay kids or anything like that, you're just bankrupt throughout all of this. My version of being a man is like, hey, I like ribeyes, I like Motorhead, and I'm never going to pick on trans kids and gay kids or things. And it's just sad that the other side choose to kind of pick on members of those community. And I've said this throughout my entire career, that if you think that I have to turn our backs on their community, then you can vote for somebody else. But I'm unwilling to ever do that. And again, it's just a warped version of, it doesn't make you tough. It doesn't make you a man to pick on trans or gay kids. It just makes you an asshole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, tough guy. Yeah. Throw him a ribeye. He did his little dance for CNN. He's talking about the Trump trans ad that's been playing during football games that has been so impactful. Where is anybody making fun of a trans kid or a gay kid? It features Kamala, in her own words, talking about taxpayer financing of gender reassignment surgeries for adult prisoners in the California penal system.
Who are murderers. Yeah.
What does that have to do with trans kids or making fun of anybody? It has nothing to do with it. Oh, and by the way, that's not the only issue under this umbrella. As Trump reminded people, well, not really Trump, Lily, the one of the swimmers on the Roanoke Women's College swim team, and all of her teammates who showed up to the Trump rally in Virginia and offered this.
Thank you so much, President Trump. As female athletes especially, we know that men have an inherent advantage over women in sports. And due to current policies, though, men are competing against women of all ages in all sports. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have advocated for and pushed for this anti-woman sex-based discrimination to continue all over this country. And point blank, it's unfair. So I would like to thank you, President Trump, for standing with women and promising to protect the rights of all of us. We are so lucky to have a leader like Donald Trump with common sense who knows what a strong woman is and will fight for generations of girls to come. Thank you so much, and God bless America.
So were they making fun of trans kids, Senator Slingblade? After French fried potatoes, nitwit. He's an embarrassment. Pennsylvania should be embarrassed to have this guy as a senator. And we know about embarrassing senators here in Illinois. We've had nothing but a run of them for more than 2 decades.
Well, that's what happened. 1 million people voted before that first and only debate with him and Dr. Oz. So
yeah, I know.
They voted for.
He's for fracking, and he's for fracking because he's for fracking. Yeah, very compelling arguments. His arguments don't get any better. He was also on Rogan as he's making the rounds. Boy, there's a guy who's overconfident. to go on Joe Rogan for an extended sit down where you talk yourself in circles on matters that are mission critical in this election, like immigration. And he tries to prop up I supported the bipartisan immigration legislation. Well, even Rogan can take Fetterman apart.
That they had an opportunity to do a comprehensive border, bipartisan, and that went down because Trump he declared that's a bad deal after it was negotiated with the other side.
But didn't that deal also involve amnesty, and didn't that deal also involve a significant number of illegal aliens being allowed into the country every year? I think it was 2 million people. So it was still the same sort of situation, and their fear is exactly what I talked about, that these people will be moved to swing states, and that will be used to essentially rig those states and turn them blue forever.
Well, I'm not really sure if that's what's in play. I think it's really like it's important that we have to have an honest conversation.
But doesn't that seem logical, though? If you have a significant number of people that are being moved into swing states that have come across the border illegally, and then you've provided them with all these services, you provided them with food stamps, EBT, you've provided them with housing. You could, if you gave those people amnesty and allowed those people to vote, and it was very organized. You're talking about 75,000 votes over a few counties that switched everything over to the Republicans. You could see how you import 10 million people over the course of 4 years illegally, and then move a significant number of them to swing states, and then provide them with all these services, and then give them a path to citizenship. You could essentially rig those states.
Undeniably, immigration is changing our nation. I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time in Texas, but it's very clear that immigration has remade Texas, and I think it's for a good.
I'll tell you what, Fetterman's lucky he didn't have to debate Joe Rogan when he was running for Senate. I mean, good grief. You just admitted the whole thing. This guy is a dope, and I'm not talking about his health issues because he was a dope when he was lieutenant governor, before he had any health issues. I don't think he's going to help Kamala across the finish line with those admissions. Guy Ciarrocchi joins us now, GOP strategist, writer for Real Clear and Broad Plus Liberty. Guy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Well, the two sides have spent $1 billion. You know what it's like to watch an Eagles game squeezed in between commercials. They spent $1 billion. It started as a tie. The Democrats switched candidates, and it's still a tie.
Well, it's still a tie, but as we were talking to Jim Lee from Susquehanna a little bit earlier in the show, the underlying actual vote totals are sort of interesting. They don't tell us everything, but I mean, it seems like Republicans are about 600,000 votes better positioned right now in Pennsylvania than they were 4 years ago.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, one of the challenges for a state like ours that just started doing mail-in voting is that it began in 2020. And so 2020 was such a bizarre election for a lot of reasons, which we could talk about another time. But Joe Biden was ahead by 1.4 million votes before the first Election Day vote was counted. Trump carried Election Day by 1.3 million. Mm-hmm. Nobody expects those kind of swings. Everybody believes the Republicans will win Election Day, just like your earlier guest said about Nevada. The Republicans will win Election Day. The question is, have the Democrats built up enough of a need? And the way I've seen it is, every time one of the sides talks about a benchmark, they sort of meet the benchmark, but they don't clearly fall short or clearly exceed it. Democrats wanted to be ahead of Republicans by 400,000 votes in early voting. They're ahead by about 400,000. But the Republicans wanted to keep the ratio of Democrats to Republicans to only 2-1. Last time it was 5-1. It's sitting at 2-1. So both sides have hit what they said was their metric. So to me, it comes back to Election Day. I'd still rather be Trump because Trump's going to grow in Philadelphia, in the city. He's going to grow in rural Pennsylvania. She's putting all her eggs in the suburban basket, and I don't know that she can make it up. Look, I go back to the summer. When they kicked out Joe Biden and put in Harris, I told Philadelphia media and national media, that was a wonderful national strategy. It was a horrible Pennsylvania strategy. They got rid of Scranton Joe.
Yeah.
They got rid of Philadelphia Joe, and they gave us San Francisco Kamala. I don't know that they've ever been able to recover from that. And in a state that's decided by a point, Trump probably ekes it out.
Well, what if she would have made a smarter decision and chose Governor Shapiro instead of Tim Walz?
Yeah, it's interesting because Walz was supposed to help her because, he's a hunting guy and he's a regular guy and he's a football guy.
Yeah.
And you don't see Tim Walz in Pennsylvania much. I think they've relegated him to campaigning in Minnesota or God knows where because he's really not a presence in Pennsylvania. Yeah, we'll never know what would have happened because with Shapiro being Jewish and sort of proud of his faith and for Israel's right to defend itself, she might have gained votes in Pennsylvania, but she might have lost them nationally. So I don't know how it would have played out. What I know is that Walz was a huge swing and a half. And she's really left herself trying to win votes in suburbia. If it works, she's going to carry Pennsylvania, but she's also going to change the way Democrats campaign here. I think Democrats will write off the city and just focus on suburban voters. And it's where they seem most comfortable. They don't seem comfortable in neighborhoods. They seem comfortable out talking to suburban voters. And in a state like Pennsylvania, that's writing off a heck of a lot of working class, blue collar, energy voters and people who build things for a living.
The Senate race between McCormick and Casey, you wrote about that as well. That Casey was sort of the first one that popped on the radar, including Trump in his ads, which was sort of a signal about exactly what you're talking about, the demographics that you need to appeal to be successful in Pennsylvania. He seems to recognize that. Maybe national Democrats don't quite as much. How do you assess that Senate race?
Yeah, McCormick has run a near perfect race. He stayed on message. He stayed on issue. He was the first really candidate for the Senate in the nation who started to effectively tie the incumbent Democratic senator to the Biden-Harris administration. His campaign team was putting up ads within minutes or hours of things happening. So McCormick has made it essentially a referendum on change. Casey, for those in the Chicago area should understand, he's not only a 3-term senator, his father was a 2-term governor, but his father was what you and I used to call Democrats from the Democratic wing of the party, an old-fashioned Democrat. His father was a pro-life, pro-Second Amendment sort of, regular guy Democrat. Bob Casey has become sort of an Elizabeth Warren Democrat. It's a risky strategy, and now the economy's gone south, the border's wide open. Casey's in trouble, which is why I think you see him hugging Trump in the last minutes, trying to say, hey, this guy, I know we called him Hitler, I know we called him a fascist, but I'm happy to work with him if that's what all of you want in Pennsylvania. In other words, whatever it takes, just get me to 50%.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I don't know if it's going to work.
Are there any
Exactly.
campaign ads with him and Kamala Harris? Or is he distancing himself from her?
Gee, there's hours to go, but I don't think we're going to see any of those. It's just been him talking about how he's ready for a border wall. It's amazing after 15 million people, they're suddenly ready for a border wall. They promise. Just give them one more chance and they're going to fix that border wall as soon as they get around to it. So, look, I think McCormick's in an ideal position to not only take back a seat, but to do it by defeating what has been a name that Pennsylvanians have known for 5 decades.
And the issue you mentioned, energy workers and energy voters. Just all of, I know Fetterman did the same thing and got away with it, but maybe we also have a lot of voters in Pennsylvania tiring of the Potomac two-step on issues that are of concern to them.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think especially when you get to, for your folks, I would say my handy guide is Pennsylvania's a rectangle, and the western part of the state, greater Pittsburgh, Erie, it's much more of a Midwestern state. It's a place where people build things and manufacture things. It's also where a lot of our energy is. And I think they understand that what symbolically it meant when the Keystone Pipeline was shut down, even though that didn't impact Pennsylvania. What did impact Pennsylvania is talking about ending fossil fuels. What does get Pennsylvanians noticed is when Biden and Harris said we can't ship Pennsylvania gas out to Europe. That costs jobs. So you say, what does anybody in Pittsburgh care about the price of energy in Germany? They may or may not. What they understand is that if you put Russia in charge of Europe's energy, that's not a good thing. What they really understand is that if mom and dad can't go to work, we can't pay our bills. The future of Western Pennsylvania's economic growth is built around natural gas. We have more natural gas, just to give your listeners understanding. We have more natural gas energy than Saudi Arabia has in oil energy. And Biden and Harris have effectively shut it down. They're not going to buy that she was against it, then for it, then against it, then for it. The truth is, if you interviewed her today, I still don't think she knows what she means. To Pennsylvanians, particularly west of Pennsylvania, they know if you can't articulate it, you're against it, and it means their livelihoods and their kids' livelihoods are in danger. Again, they've written off Western Pennsylvania, and I think the Republicans are going to run up historic numbers out there.
Guy Ciarrocchi, GOP strategist, writer for RealClearPennsylvania.com, as well as Broad Plus Liberty. Guy, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your insights.
I appreciate it. All eyes are here. If Trump wins, it's over. If she does, it'll still be a late night. Let's see what happens.